Hi everybody. Sometimes we need to save data from tables to a file on the disk that we can later send. We may need that to send data between different sites or just for backup reasons or whatever reasons you may like. In a previous video we've shown you how to do it from the entity browser, and in this video we want to show you how to do it in code. So to do that we created a simple controller that has a counter to show us the number of rows in the orders table, and it has a nice little screen that shows that information. So first thing I want to do, I want to count the orders. So I'll add a button here. I'll change its text to count orders. And I want to update our local column with the orders count. So I'm going to say var o equals new models orders. That's my orders table. And then in our controllers, rows value equals o.count rows. Okay, so now when I will click the button, it will update the number of rows. Let's do that. Cool. And to see what we've done, very simple. Added the method, define the entity, and update the local column in our controller with the value of count rows. Let's save that. The next thing we want to do is we want to save the rows to a file on the disk. So let's grab another button, call it save orders to files. Whoops, sorry. Real code has real mistakes. Perfect, and it will create the method for me. So, first thing we need to do is we need to have the orders tables. The next thing we need to do is we need to use a method called serialize. So I'm going to do u.serialize entity, and I'm going to send it the orders table as a parameter. Now we can see that this method returns a byte array. A byte array is something that you can save to a disk. In Magic it used to be called blob. So let's save this byte array. Okay, and let's call it a file or data bytes. And then we want to save it to a disk. So we're going to use u.file to blob, blob to file, if we come from Magic, and save it to c temp orders data. Let's save this. Let's run this. Click the button, and in our temp folder we can see that orders data was created, and it has a length of 289. Now this is binary data that is transferable. It's not humanly readable, but you can transfer it between machines. Let's just fix the name of the button, call it save orders to disk, to file. Okay, so let's recap on what we've done. Okay, we've defined the orders entity. We serialized the order entity into a set of bytes, and later we save those bytes to disk using the blob to file. Of course, we can use also system IO file, write all bytes. It will work just as well. I'm just using this for familiarity to Magic developers. Okay, so saved orders. Perfect. Next thing you want to do, we want to actually delete the data so we can see that we have no rows before we import it. So I'm going to add here a button called delete orders. Again, I'm defining the orders entity, and I'm going to do orders.truncate. Okay, let's test that it works. So count orders is 830, delete orders, and count orders will now return 0. Perfect. Quick recap on what we've done. Okay, defined the orders entity and called truncate. And loading is just as simple. we're going to do the reverse operation of the saving. Let's call it load orders. So we're going to get the orders entity. Previously we saved it to a file, so now we need to read it from a file. So we're going to say var data byte equals u dot file to blob. Okay, and we read the file into the bytes, and then we can say u dot deserialize entity that will receive as a parameter the entity and the bytes. Perfect. Let's build it. Let's run it. We see now that the orders table is empty. We reload the orders, and now we see that we have 830 orders. Let's recap what we've done. So to load the data, we've defined the orders entity, bytes, and we've deserialized the entity. Now one more thing I want to show you on this, or a few more things I want to show you. We can also filter the data. For example, we can save in the data data from a specific filter, like we want to save only a country of France. So I can say here, comma, where o.country is equal to France. Let's see that. Okay. So our file on disk is the size of 289 Ks. We filtered on France, so if we will save the files now, we will see the file is actually only 27 kilobytes because it has less orders. Okay, so we can use that filtering option to save the data to the disk. Also, so let's just review what we've done here. We've added the filter, the ship country filter, okay, to save only part of the data to the disk, and we can use any filters that we like here. Great. Now another thing I want to show you is that you can, instead of using blob to files, which is kind of a method that's only going to be familiar to Magic developers, we can use instead of that system IO file write all bytes, and we don't need the blob to file anymore, and system IO file read all bytes. So this is like how to do it. This is actually blob to file and file to blob are using this method underneath. Okay, so you can see here the change between blob to file to write all bytes and file to blob to read all bytes. The only difference that is meaningful here is that write all bytes and read all bytes don't respect logical names. I think that's it. So this is how you save data, load data from the disk, and it's pretty easy. You can use it any way you like. I hope you find this useful.